We all want a home that supports our family's health and wellness, but we also want a home that supports the planet. Solar panels seem like the perfect solution for a sustainable, low toxin lifestyle, right? As a building biology practitioner, I've seen firsthand how the wrong installation can introduce invisible stressors into your sanctuary. Today, I'm not just talking about your carbon footprint. We're looking at the biological footprint that solar can have on your home. And the truth is that solar energy and health of your indoor space can actually coexist simultaneously. You just need to know how to set the right boundaries. Most systems are designed for efficiency and cost, ignoring how high frequency noise affects our cells and our sleep. I'm talking about a deep dive into the science of solar health today, and we'll cover everything from dirty electricity created by inverters to the specific hardware choices that keep your nervous system in a state of rest. Let's move past the debate of is solar good and is solar bad, and let's talk about the specifics of how you can do it the right way in your own home. Welcome back. I'm Amanda. I'm a building biology practitioner and a healthy home expert. I am the owner and creator of Healthy House on the Block, where I empower you with information and knowledge on how to create a home that actually supports your health and wellness. Today, I'm covering a topic I get asked about all the time, and that is solar healthy? Is it good for a healthy home? So we're going to dive in and go through all of the nuances that come with solar and health. So to understand why we need a healthy approach to solar, we first have to understand the green versus healthy conflict. So in mainstream sustainability, the focus is almost entirely on carbon footprint, while in building biology, we prioritize the impact on human physiology. So we want a home that's eco-friendly, but more importantly, we want it to be biologically compatible with our bodies. So just because something is green, it definitely doesn't mean it's inherently healthy for the humans living inside the structure. And I think the biggest thing to understand is that solar panels generate direct current. This is usually labeled as DC. This is a relatively clean form of energy, and it flows in one direction. However, our homes and our modern appliances, they run on alternating current, or what we refer to as AC. And this runs both ways. So to bridge this gap, every single system for a solar panel or a solar system in your home requires an inverter. And this device is the brain of your solar setup. But from a health perspective, it's the primary source of environmental stressors because of the way it manipulates both of these forms of electricity. The inverter uses high-speed switching, and this is called pulse width modulation. So to chop the DC power into an AC wave, this is what it does. The process is inherently messy. It creates high frequency voltage transients, often called dirty electricity. And I'm sure you've heard of this term. Basically, this is noise, and it doesn't stay contained in that inverter. It hitches a ride on your home's copper wiring, radiating into your living spaces. So you can think of it like a quiet room that is suddenly filled with high-pitched static that you can't hear, but your cells are feeling. I think it's also really important to understand the scientific foundations and how they're linking EMFs to health. It's not just a theoretical concern. Pioneering work by researchers like Dr. Samuel Milham have linked chronic exposure to these EMFs to what he calls diseases of civilization. This is a term that he came up with. His research actually suggests that these frequencies can interfere with mitochondrial function. So that's the energy production of your cells, and it can interfere with metabolic health. So since these frequencies are much higher than the standard 60 hertz your body is used to, they can act as a constant, subtle irritant to your whole nervous system. Now, in building biology, we have a set of standards, and it's much more stringent than government regulations when it comes to EMFs. Government standards are often based relying only on thermal effects, so whether the radiation heats your tissue. But what building biology looks at is the biological effects. So the precautionary principle states that if there is a potential for harm, even without absolute certainty, we should at least minimize exposure. This is especially important in the home where we're spending 1/3 of our lives sleeping and recovering. Another thing we have to understand is the magnetic pull. So large solar installations, they can create objectionable current on your grounding system. Magnetic fields are particularly concerning because they're nearly impossible to shield with standard building materials like drywall or wood. So these fields can pass through walls and they're potentially disrupting your body's natural magnetic orientation and your melatonin production. So if the wiring isn't bundled correctly, you're essentially creating a giant antenna for magnetic interference in your home. Are you a little unsure about where you even should be starting with the healthy house? Like, what are the first steps? After 10 plus years of hands-on experience, I know what those first steps are, and I know the steps to take that won't have you spending lots of money in the beginning, but will get you excited for all of the changes and all the potential that your house has. The truth is, creating a healthy house doesn't have to be really expensive. It doesn't have to be really complicated. You just have to know the exact steps to take. Anybody can check things off a list, and that's exactly what I'm here to help you do. My free ebook is an amazing resource to help you get started on getting toxins out of your house and creating healthier habits, and also planning for the future for some of those bigger changes. So to satisfy the demand for data, many modern systems will use microinverters, or sometimes they're called wireless optimizers. And what they do is they send data to your phone every few seconds. So this adds a layer of electrosmog directly on your roof. So rather than one centralized power source, you can end up with 20 or 30 small radio transmitters pulsing data right above your head. And in a healthy home, this is something we want to minimize because these are unnecessary wireless pulses that run through your home that we can avoid if at all possible. And I think understanding the reason is very important. Our bodies are exquisitely sensitive electrical beings. So every thought, every heartbeat, it's a biological signal. And when we surround ourselves with electrical noise, our nervous system perceives this as a stressor. So this can keep your body in a sympathetic, or also known as a fight or flight state. And over time, this makes it really difficult to reach the parasympathetic state, which is required for deep and restorative sleep. This is why some people feel tired but wired in homes with high electrical noise. So I think the important thing to know is that I'm not saying solar panels, solar energy for your home is a no. You have to do it in a healthy way. And the first strategy is to understand the power of distance. So in EMF mitigation, distance is our greatest tool because of the inverse square law. So this basically says as you double your distance from a source, your exposure drops significantly. So the inverter and battery storage for solar panels should never be mounted on a wall shared with a bedroom or a nursery or somewhere where you're spending a large amount of time, perhaps a home office. Ideally, we want these components installed on a detached structure or far away from an exterior wall of maybe the home, so it could be a garage. This allows those fields to dissipate before they reach your family's primary living areas. Another strategy for healthier solar panels is to look at the hardware choices. So from a health perspective, string inverters are almost always the better choice. They can centralize the conversion in one box that we can place in a safe, distant location. Micro inverters, on the other hand, they place a source of dirty electricity and RF radiation directly under every single panel on your roof. So by choosing a central string inverter, you can keep that messy electricity localized, and it's much easier to manage. And a third strategy is to use shielding and hardwiring. So you can ask your installer to use metal clad, sometimes they refer to this as MC cable, or rigid metal conduit for all your AC runs. That's that alternating current. So this shielding helps contain the electrical fields that standard plastic Romex, which is shown here, allows to radiate. You can also skip the Wi-Fi monitoring. Most quality inverters have an Ethernet port, so you can request that your installer runs a shielded Cat6 Ethernet cable from your router to your inverter. This gives you all the data with zero of that added RF radiation. Now, a critical part of a healthy installation is ensuring that the solar system does not create ground loops. So if the system is not grounded properly, you can end up with current flowing on your metal water pipes or through the earth underneath your home. And this is a technical detail, but it's a really important one that I felt like I had to share with you. So you want a solar contractor who really understands how to isolate the system's grounding to prevent these stray magnetic fields from entering your living space. Now, a final addition to adding a solar system is using some filters as remediation. So once you have the system and it's physically optimized through placement and hardware choices, the final step is we could add high quality filters like green wave. This can help kind of clean up any remaining high frequency transients that are in your lines. So I always tell my clients filtration, again, is just like the finishing element. It is not the foundation. We have to do these other steps before it. We don't use filters to fix a poorly designed system. We use them to perfect a well-designed one. So this ensures the electricity reaching your outlets is as clean as possible after we've done all of those other steps. Creating a healthy home is a journey of layers. And many of us, if we're deep into this, understand that solar can be a wonderful resource, but it has to be implemented with the biological safeguards that I shared. And when you do that, it truly supports the health of the planet and the health of your family. You don't have to navigate these technical choices alone. I have written a full blog post that dives even deeper into this, and I have it linked below. But because every home is a unique electrical layout, I'm here to help ensure that your transition to renewable energy is as supportive and low toxin as possible. So if you're planning an installation or you want an audit on your current system, head to the consultation link in the video description below. We can work together to make sure that your home remains the healthy sanctuary your family deserves. As always, thank you so much for being here. I hope you could take at least one thing from this week's video and apply it to your own home, or maybe save it for later when you might be looking at solar down the road. If you did find this video helpful, definitely give it a like and be sure to subscribe to my channel because I am here every single week with new tips, new ideas on how to create a space that actually supports your health and your wellness.